Alright everyone, a bunch of people have messaged me asking about the red heifer prophecy, especially as it connects to what's currently going on between Israel and Gaza. There is an interesting article that several people linked me, link in the description, archived of course, sort of explaining from one particular perspective the phenomenon, and ascribing some of Hamas's actions to, especially the Temple Institute's workings over in Israel. Now I did make a video several years ago on the topic of the red heifer, but I'll recap for people that didn't see it. The red heifer prophecy is a prophecy that is held by certain Orthodox Jewish sects. Not all of them, but some of them. In which, if you can find just the right cow, then under just the right circumstances, you can burn it to ashes, consecrate the Temple Mount, and the third temple can be restored. That is, that you bring about the era of the Messiah, as opposed to Jesus under Christianity as the Messiah. Under Islam, you actually would, I think that their interpretation, at least under Shia Islam, would be that doing so would bring about the return of Dajjal, actually, or Shaitan, who is literally the Islamic equivalent of the Antichrist, basically. Certain liberal Jews, they have no problem with Israel as a civic entity, but they don't believe in this particular prophecy. And other Orthodox groups believe that Israel shouldn't even exist currently. They believe that currently the Jews are meant to be a diaspora to atone for having offended Yahweh in some way, Jehovah. Now, here's what you have to do. And there's a ranch in Texas that raises red cattle, and this Orthodox Jewish group carefully scrutinizes all of these cows, trying to find the perfect red heifer. It must never have been laid to yoke. It must never have eaten anything that wasn't kosher, or been around. Like, so, yeah, I mean, if it steps on a dead animal, it's no longer a proper red heifer, even if it would conform to literally everything else. It can have no more than 2, or in some cases 3, hairs of any color other than that particular coat of red. And the odds of finding a cow, there are other prohibitions and laws related to it as well. It can't do any work on a Sunday, quite literally, on the Sabbath day. Or is it Saturday under Judaism? Can't remember which one. Christians use Sunday, generally speaking. So the long list of prohibitions and rules related to the offering of the red heifer: can't have any blemishes, no rash, not a single scab. It has to be effectively perfect. It has been given by their God as the perfect vessel for that sacrifice. They bring forth the red heifer. How are you going to transport it from Texas to Israel without violating those laws? I'm not 100% sure exactly, but we'll see. You definitely need to have fully kosher, rabbi-blessed feed for the entire journey. It'd have to have a ship unto itself, basically. And the Temple Institute does, by the way, have all of the prescribed instruments for the ritual, like the golden spade and things like that. The idea is that you burn it to ashes and then you consecrate the Temple Mount. Now, what's the problem? There are several. From a historical perspective, it is not 100% clear that the current Temple Mount is actually the original Temple Mount. Because upon the destruction of the original temple, we're not 100% sure that's actually the right location at all. Certain sympathetic Jewish archaeologists, and Christian groups, by the way, as well, especially fundamentalist ones, have dug relics out of the ground in that area that do date to that period and appear Jewish in manufacture. Islamic theologists claim that archaeologists go in there and they surreptitiously put them in the ground and then they dig them out in front of crowds in order to say, wow, look at this, this proves that the Temple Mount is Jewish. There's question as to whether it's the actual proper location. But let's assume that it is. The problem is that it's currently occupied by several of the most holy things in Islam, actually. And so not just Hamas, but a significant proportion of all of the more religious Islamists in the world would be up in arms if the Jews were to storm the Temple Mount. There's a reason why there's a prohibition by the Israeli government on that happening. There have been riots that have occurred over that. Now, what do I think would happen if they find their perfect red heifer, they sprinkle the ashes around, they perform all the rituals, and begin consecrating to deliver the third temple? Religiously speaking and spiritually speaking, I don't believe that it doesn't cause the apocalypse. If anything, I lean closer to the Norse interpretation of apocalyptic events, the Ragnarok, wherein it's not really the end of the world, it's the end of the current order. You can look at it as metaphor or literal, however you want. You can look at winter as a metaphor, etc., from the Eddas, or whatever you want to do. But then, I mean, mankind does survive. It's just that things have completely changed. The old world has largely been ripped away. And, you know, you can interpret this as a fomentation of nuclear war, so nuclear winter. You can look at it as the climate disaster. You know, if you're on the left, you can still be spiritual. You just have to sort of finagle your way through it a little bit. Approaching another ice age. You know, a lot of things are going to be destroyed, and you know, anyone buried in the northern latitudes, your bones are going to be ground to dust. So at least plants will eventually grow on them when people return to farming after the ice age is over. So you look forward to your atoms being locked away in the ice for 10,000 years and then recycled. I look at it this way, though. The problem with the red heifer prophecy is that it could become a civically self-sustaining sort of situation. So you've got your heifer. You go to the Temple Mount and you begin to offer it. Fucking civil war breaks out. People who believe that you're ushering in the Antichrist or Dajjal are totally against you. Others rally to your side. Mass fighting breaks out. Fucking chaos. Jerusalem is up in flames. And that really would create a problem because all of the other groups in the region probably would get involved. Then the West would get involved on behalf of the Jews. Then the East Bloc might get involved on behalf of certainly the Iranians and certain Syrian groups, which would pour into the region. It would be a catastrophe. At the very least, you'd have the mass destruction of the Levantine region. That is probably what would happen if that offering were made. Not because a god got involved, not because Satan got involved, not because Dajjal is coming back or the Messiah is rising and this is the end times or something like that and Jesus is returning, but because people interpret it that way. They've got their interpretations of these religions. Meanwhile, people who say, yeah, I believe in Jesus, but I don't believe in this particular aspect of the religion because I think Revelation is metaphorical largely, they're going to sit back awestruck and be like, what the hell is going on? Eventually, though, even those people might be compelled to take sides due to sectarian violence. Well, you could have a situation that totally spirals out of control. Mostly it would be civic, but it would be predicated on religious interpretations. And that's what I said before with regards to the red heifer. The real danger is not that Satan comes up from the ground in a boiling crater, or that Jesus comes floating out of the sky and says, well, the end is here, bye everyone. Yeah, it's the rapture time. 144,000 of you will actually be saved. The rest of you are going to burn in hell forever. It's not because of that. It's because of humans' interpretation and belief in those particular systems. If they believe that the end time is upon them, they start acting strangely. Well, if you have enough people from enough groups that are kind of hostile towards each other, again, for mainly political reasons in some cases, acting strangely at the same time, things can boil over, and they could do so very, very quickly. And so there's a reason why the Israeli government tries to tamp down on this with regards to everything other than settlement expansion in the West Bank. So that's my reading on the red heifer. I mean, good luck finding a cow, though, there that actually conforms to every piece of that rabbinical law, because they thought they found one years and years ago when I made my original video on the topic, and then they had to disqualify it. It had too many hairs that were white or something like that. And they've come close, but the odds of finding that particular perfect sacrificial animal are phantasmagorically low at any given time. So I wouldn't be too worried about it, but imagine they say, well, this one's good enough, and if we just pluck a few of these hairs, we can pretty much pass it off. It would have the same impact, because it would be interpreted the same way, both by that particular group of Orthodox Jews, and by Islamists, and by certain Christian fundamentalists that believe that we're already in the end times anyway. And so it could cause a major war, a catastrophe on a global scale. That's about all. Peace out.